Okay, we are going live.
Holding on.
Are you sure? It's
We
saying
are
we are live.
We are live right now. Woohoo! Hello,
Oh,
everyone. Welcome to Walking in the Shadows with Cryptid Women's Society. What's going on?
how's it going? Boy, did we have a fun week last week talking about alien entities and different
Oh my goodness.
species.
Yeah. So
Man,
today's episode is all about contracts that the Galactic Federation and alien species may or may not have made with the governments of Earth. Ugh, so exciting.
and you know what? I did tell people that I would need wine for this episode. I'm very jealous of the Americans over there because it is nighttime. It is past 5 o'clock, so they are allowed to drink. So, but it is 10 a.m. here. But I did bring, which looks like wine. I swear it is only cranberry juice, maybe.
Oh my God, I didn't bring one. Damn it. Do you know what I did bring though? You've got wine. This is called
She's always got cake.
rice.
How are you going to eat that? That is not going to be a clean eating cake.
But what is this called? This is a custard slice. I don't know,
Custard
like
slice,
custard
custard square,
square.
but it's
In
a custard rectangle.
It
It's
is
not
a
custard square.
100% rectangle. So I don't know. Do they have these in America or in Europe? This is
I don't know.
definitely a New
Maybe
Zealand thing.
Europe it does like more of a Frenchy thing. So it's like pastry on the bottom, homemade custard, and then like another pastry, and then like a vanilla icing on top. They're
It's
pretty amazing.
basically just deliciousness.
I love the way you always bring cake and I bring alcohol. But it's not alcohol. It's 10 a.m. here. I'm not drinking alcohol.
It is. It is. It's a yeah, she's an alkie. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. It's not her fault though. You know, like it's not her fault.
It's very sour cranberry juice, to be honest.
I also have grumpy cat with coffee in it, so it's the only way that I function, really.
Oh no, I've already had my two coffees today. I can't do any more.
That's my second. So hey everyone, how is everyone today? Feel free to drop the comments in the comment box on YouTube, because that's where we're live to at the moment. We can see your comments coming through, so feel free to drop those in there. If you've got a theory about what's going on, drop it in the comments. Drop it in the comments. Can we say a big giant thank you to the Cult of Conspiracy members for having us? This is possibly our first episode on the Cult of Conspiracy podcast. And
because we did do another one, but we kind of ended it up.
In New Zealand, New Zealand takes a while. Yeah, we take a while to figure stuff out, but we are just so we feel so privileged to come and join you all over there. We had the most amazing conversations with Jacob and Jonathan twice now.
Coolest dudes ever.
Yeah, it was so much fun. God, we talked for hours. We were just like, oh,
we did.
We did. Sleep.
I think it was like one of the longest interviews we've ever done. It just kept going, and we were talking before, and those guys, like honestly, they'd be the kind of guys that you'd go and spend an entire weekend with, and it would just be nobody about to talk by the end of it. We just
we rate them pretty damn highly.
Very cool dudes.
Yeah, so we are super privileged to be a part of that podcast channel, along with the other cool people that are on there. So thank you so much for having us. And we have just finished literally about, I don't know, an hour ago. We have just finished such a cool interview with an amazing woman called Dr. Mara Payne, who's part of the space industry, if you will, space sciences industry. She's worked for every aeronautical company you can possibly write down on a piece of paper. 30 years in the industry she's had, and she now has some amazing technology that she wants to use for searching for Bigfoot and other cryptids, and as I learned, other paranormal phenomenon can be done for ghosts, apparitions, UFOs, I was like, that is a game changer. So that was a VIP chat over in cryptidwomensociety.com. If you're a truth seeker, you can log into the members portal and jump in there, and you can come in and ask questions in real time, get real-time answers from some amazing people. Next week, we've got some amazing other interviews coming up, which will show up on our social media. And we've got some very, very cool guests joining us for our Walking in the Shadows podcast live stream.
Yeah.
Lots of fun stuff going on. True story.
Yes. Lots of fun stuff. Lots of crazy stuff going on in the world. Oh, just too much to mention.
Holy shit. Tell me about it.
Aliens.
Can we just
alien big cats?
Yeah, there's a lot of alien big cats in Australia right now. Bucket load.
A lot, yeah.
And can we just talk about the debunking of this, right? Alien big cats, giant black panthers that shouldn't be in Australia and should nowhere near be able to create sustainable populations, right? That shouldn't happen, even if they brought one over on a boat, which is said to have happened, and then
40 years ago.
How the hell have they made, sustainable populations? Anyway, have you seen the debunking on that and the responses from like Parks and Recreation and
no,
those guys?
But I did see on this. I did see the video. I didn't think of bringing it of the panther, the black panther that was seen here, and basically the doc and people, the council went, no, it's just a giant wild cat.
It's a giant feral cat.
A giant feral cat. This thing honestly stood the size of a Labrador. And then there was this film was like, we will release that. Sorry, I didn't even think about it. We shall release that.
We'll put it on our social media,
no doubt. The size of the tail, the feet, the body structure, which is nothing like a wild cat. This thing was huge.
Yeah.
Like there's no debunking it. They can say all they like, it's a wild cat. You can just tell.
Yeah.
Plainly, this is like
it does my head in, right? Yeah. It just does my head in. You know what a residential pussycat looks like. You know what a panther looks like because we've seen them on videos. A lot of people have actually seen them in real life. I have sat down and petted Bengal tigers in Thailand. I've seen what they move like, what they feel like, what they look like. We're not that stupid. Stop it. Like
we've got 2 cats. They were feral, they were dumped, and our cats are huge. And I swear to God, everybody that walks in here, they see our cats and go, oh my God, why are they so big? Because they are, like, compared to other cats, they're like double in size. Now they're just big fat Oompa Loompas. But they're very lazy. But our cats, like, they stand, like, one in particular is probably 4 times bigger than my Chihuahua. Like, he is huge. He's so much taller. He is probably 3 times her length in body and tail. And they are big cats. And everybody freaks out when they see them because they're so big. So they would be classed as feral cats. They were feral when we got them. So that's not a panther. You can tell the difference. They're big cats, but they are not panthers. One of them is probably maybe a couple of inches just below my knee. Like he's a big boy. He's tall.
But I mean, the amount of ABCs, these giant cats that shouldn't be there in Victoria, in Australia alone, is huge.
Really well known for big cats. Yeah,
100%. And yet still, oh no, they don't exist. Oh no, they're not real. Oh, for God's sake. Just like the Galactic Federation, okay? Seriously, let's branch back onto
the moon, as people can see by my name. Was the moon always there? We will talk about it.
Questionable. And I right now am Lisa, the bringer of truth. And whether or not there is much truth in what I'm going to say, yet to be decided. And you can make it.
That's why I needed fake wine because it's going to be a heavy. It's going to be a heavy episode.
I tell you what,
kind of went over my head too, as people saw. I was like, oh, I'm done. I've kind of zoned out now. I'm just like,
yeah.
nah.
You know what? Like I had to do a lot of listening and a lot of learning before I really kind of got my head around the theories as well. And I drive down to Wellington. I drive for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 days a week, and then back as well. And so I listen to podcasts and, you know, YouTube videos and all sorts of stuff. And so I'm kind of able to just immerse myself in it and actually kind of get to grips, because man, these theories are deep.
Yeah.
They're real, like, and there's so many different moving parts, and they're super complex, and they're really obscure. And number one, to try and get your brain into that sort of space is hard enough. And then to try and put all the puzzle pieces and how they all link in. Oh shit, yeah, I feel
and Lisa being, she doesn't like the word guru, but Lisa being our alien UFO lover. Like for me, like I'm learning so much, like, you know, delving into all of this. You know, and some stuff you go, oh wow, that's really interesting. Other stuff you're like, yeah, I find that really kind of, I struggle with that. But that's what we like, you know. It's like we don't always agree on stuff, and yeah, and the whole kind of the alien species stuff I find really fascinating, you know. And I have been watching a lot of documentaries, and I can't remember the name of it, but one about a lot of abductions and stuff, which were quite horrific. And yeah, you know, and they you know, these women, mainly women, don't have any contact with each other. Some of them don't believe in UFOs, and these things happen, and they all describe the same beings.
And that's the one thing I think you can't get away from, right? The similarities between different encounters, different cases. They're so similar. There's so many
which span back 1,000 years of abductions. Like honestly, you know, they talk about, you know, in really old ancient cultures about these light beings coming in and taking people, and, you know, women, children, men. You know, so it's not a modern day thing. It's, you know, and that kind of keeps me like going, wow, this is
and that's I guess one of the things that, like, one of our foundational kind of pillars, if you will, is what did the indigenous people think of this? What did the ancients think of this? What do their stories look like? And then how do we link it back into the modern kind of stuff that we're getting now and that we're researching now? How do we pull from those sort of threads and connect them? And it's the same with being in the South Pacific, right? Being down in New Zealand and Australia can be really, really challenging, because we're at the arse end of the world. We don't get much news. It's very difficult to get information. And as Juliet and I have both found, Australia more than New Zealand, but New Zealand definitely catching up. Internet is getting whitewashed left, right, and center.
Yeah.
We are getting so many restrictions put on us. And in New Zealand, we never had that. But now I'm like, what the hell, man? Let me search it. Where's that web page gone? Things keep disappearing.
Definitely in this last year, I have noticed it a lot. You look up stuff, and all of a sudden there's like no information on Google about it. You're like, oh, hang on, the last time I looked at this, there was like 100 pages. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, it's very, very interesting. You know, which, if you're not a conspiracy person, you start thinking maybe there is a conspiracy going on. You know. Because
maybe there is something.
Hang on a minute, like, if there's no conspiracy, if there's no government control, why can't I access this information? You know, so yeah, it's
100%. Hey, can I just do a shout out to the indescribable Octo Man? What's up?
Hey,
when we come to America, you're going to take us out for beersies.
Beersies, ribs, and burgers.
Oh, God, I love food. We love food.
We love food.
We love to eat.
Oh, my God.
You know, like, and as Sarah used to say, it's always good to see a skinny chick eat. So, me and you, mate, we're on.
Yeah. We're our little meat eaters. Us, we'll be going around trying all the barbecues.
You know, once my son decided that he was going to be vegetarian, right? Remember, Jules? Hunter was like, I'm going to be a vegetarian because, you know, the chickens and shit. Yum. And I was like, okay, darling. And so he was a vegetarian for like, what, a year or 2 years or something. And he's a big Samoan boy. And I was like, all right, son, how's that going for you? And he was like, oh, you know, sometimes you just need a steak. And I was like, yes, darling. And so, yeah, and just like that, he's a meat eater again. So
yeah. And I can remember a certain vegetarian, young lady that used to stay with us, and I won't mention her name because she'll probably get upset. But she got drunk one night, and we brought cooked chicken. From supermarkets here you can buy cooked chook, and she literally came home and devoured the entire thing. Got up in the morning, I'm like, some vegetarian, and then she cried. So I couldn't stop laughing. I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of vegetarians out there, but it was pretty funny.
It happens, right? I remember one of our friends got really, really drunk, and he was a vegetarian. He was like, "Oh my God, did we go to McDonald's last night?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh, what did I eat? It kind of feels good, but what did I eat?"
Oh my God. Yeah. Coming from, I used to be a vegetarian for about 5 years, and I just couldn't do it. Oh my God. Yeah.
We're carnivores. Our teeth are
carnivores. I'm a carnivore. I've got part cave woman in me, I swear.
You do. You've got some Viking in it. Let's be honest.
Like, honestly, if we have a vegetarian dinner at night, by about midnight, I'm just like, I need meat.
Yeah, look, a lot of vegetarians are on supplements. Same with vegans. A lot of them are on supplements because they don't get enough of what they need. And as women, we need hemoglobin. We need blood.
Need protein.
Yeah,
we need protein. Yeah,
100%. And that brings us on to our topic in a couple of weeks. We will be talking about modern day vampirism.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about it.
Blood-eating animals. Yeah. Vampires.
Oh, and also, just before we get into our Galactic Federation stuff, we have one of our crew members. She's our AI artist. She does all of our AI bits and pieces that we put out. And she's phenomenal and very, very good. And, we have our own kind of views on AI because it's destroying the acting industry, which is what we're both in. It's destroying the writing industry. It's destroying so many different things. And so we have
people say, but yeah, it's
sure, look, we have our own views on that sort of stuff. And we try as much as possible to be honest and transparent in the information that we put out, in the artwork we use, and that sort of stuff. So we're not just scouring the internet for images. We actually have a lady called Alex who lives in Romania who designs things for us specifically for that. So we like to think that we're giving back to her and helping her have a career at the same time. And so in that way, we kind of justify our use of AI and be responsible around it. But she is in Transylvania at the moment. And so I said to her, can you please go to Brom Castle and find some vampires? And she was like, well, actually, I'm in the hometown of Dracula. And I was like, yeah. And so Dracula. And so she's going to take some photos and some videos and that sort of stuff. She was like, this is where he was born. And I'm going to a wedding. And I was like, well, that's going to be successful.
Another place on our bucket list we must visit.
100%. Yeah. So yeah, really, really cool. So we've got members all over the world doing amazing things, and you can become a member really, really easily by jumping into cryptidwomensociety.com.
Become a what the same t-shirts on again? Like, I need to put this down.
Yeah. Get yourself a Truth Sinker membership. You get to be a part of all of our VIP interviews. You get into the gathering and have conversation with women that are in the field already doing research, doing awesome stuff as far as Bigfoot and paranormal investigations go, and ufology and ancient civilizations, scientists, all of that cool stuff. So all you have to do is jump over to that amazing website.
Boom.
Juliet, was the moon always there?
No, apparently not. Okay, so this is something that I've always wanted to kind of hit on. I'm briefly going over it because I feel that this needs to be discussed, like in a lot more kind of information, especially coming from the cultural point of view. And all that kind of stuff. So this has always kind of fascinated me, and I haven't really had the time to put a lot of research into it, so we're going to skim over it, but it's up there with one of the things that I recently found out last year about, and I think it's from Joe from Ancient Enigma Files. It was like we were talking and he mentioned it, and it just like blew my mind.
What did he mention?
Oh, well, he was talking about the moon not being real. It's not a real moon, that it's like a planet coming down. Yeah. So So briefly, so it's called the Dogon Connection. So the Dogon trial of Mali, which is, the like kind of Africa, all around that area. Is that Mali or up around that area?
I know
Is known for their advanced astronomical knowledge of Sirius B, way before there were telescopes and all that kind of stuff. And so their oral traditions speak of a time before the moon. So they said that the earth was basically bathed in perpetual mist and the skies looked different. So Zulu legends, South American myths, and other cultures, and this is where, I need to dig deeper into it, also mention a time when the moon wasn't there. So that's what I find absolutely fascinating. And I just kind of thought, I'm throwing out a theory out there at the moment just to kind of really throw one in the ball for Lisa. So they believe ancient astronauts, like Monday ones, they believe that the moon could be hollow and it is a constructed object. So it's not natural. Soviet scientists, Vasin and Shurkabov, probably said that totally wrong, in 1970, Shurkabov, published a paper suggesting that the moon is an artificial satellite put into orbit by unknown beings. So, which I thought that kind of fit in quite well with the stuff that we're talking about today. And NASA seismic experiments done during the Apollo missions, if they're real, sorry, said that when it was hit, when there's landings on it, it rang like a bell, suggesting that it could be hollow or metallic inside.
Yes.
Okay, so that's really interesting. But they also believe that it works with Saturn and it is part of a frequency control system. Like it's almost like a planetary broadcast out there. The theory is that Saturn emits a frequency, the moon then amplifies it and beams it to Earth, influencing human thought, emotion, time perception, and spiritual connection. So this aligns with the esoteric teachings that Saturn, Chronos, time, and some traditions, Satan. Now, some people believe that Saturn is Satan, and that's just like goes over my head. Yeah. And basically, he is the boundary, the enforcer. So that is what Saturn is, and people say, when Saturn's kind of all lined up, there's a lot of things. So it controls tides, menstrual cycles, animal behavior, sleep and mood. So doing what we're doing today, I just thought that was like a really interesting kind of thing to put into it. What are your thoughts? Do you think that the moon is the Galactic Federation's headquarters? I'm just putting it out there for Lisa.
Oh, God, do you know how much I
challenge her?
I love you right now. I just love it when you bring awesome shit to the table. It's fucking mint.
I don't know anything else about it, but now it's your turn.
Okay, so hang on. Before I go into what I know, let me just read the indescribable Octoman. I put a little question on our comments saying, is the moon real or fake? And he's come back saying, did you guys hear that that they only just realized that the star Betelgeuse is actually a binary star system? They thought it was about to supernova, but it's already in a mini nova. Yeah, 100%. I have heard that, absolutely. And there's a whole heap of other ones that are kind of in that sort of sequence at the moment, going into supernova state. And it's amazing, right? Because the Hubble telescope, there's so many other types of telescopes now that kind of outweigh that as well.
Oh my God, there's like hundreds of thousands.
Cool. Okay, so let me tell you my thoughts on this. So I love the fact that you brought up the Dogon tribe. The Dogon tribe is in Africa, and in fact, the boys from Cult of Conspiracy did a huge deep dive episode on that tribe itself, which is on their podcast and all that sort of stuff. You can find them.
One I haven't seen.
But it was really interesting because they talked very in-depthly about this tribe, about their cultural beliefs and their understandings around Sirius B, who came from that their understandings of the way the world worked and astronomy and that sort of stuff. Yeah, really, really super interesting episode, and we should totally jump into that tribe.
That'll be a cool conversation with those boys.
Really, really cool. Yeah. There are theories. I've heard the theory about Buzz Aldrin talking, and Neil Armstrong as well, talking about how there was weird anomalies on the moon when they landed on the moon. I've heard like weird.
But I've also heard Buzz Aldrin go, "It was fake. We didn't land on the moon."
Sure. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Yeah. We're not even going to go down that track because there's so many different theories on it. But there's a couple of theories that kind of feed into that, right? So number one theory, I've heard that yes, it is hollow. It is in fact a parking lot of sorts for alien craft, and there are videos that have come from random people's phones that have very, very strong phones and phone cameras and telescopes that show
ships flying out
and coming out. So there is a theory that it's like a parking lot, right?
Yeah.
There is another theory that it is that when they did land on the moon, that we did actually go to the moon, that we were told we're not allowed to be here as part of the Galactic Federation contracts and agreements and that sort of stuff. You're not allowed to be here, and we were sent home, essentially. And so those stories of there was obelisks on the moon, on the dark side of the moon. There was a base that they saw on the dark side of the moon. They encountered extraterrestrial entities and species up there. There was some weird kind of knocking, some like, resonating sounds when they landed. All of that sort of stuff. And the story goes that they were told they're not meant to be up here. They're not allowed to be up here. That's not part of what they're allowed to do. So sent us all home.
So is that maybe that covers the theory as to why they had to fake a landing, because basically they got turned around and
well there's a really famous, I cannot remember her name for the life of me. She's a blonde girl. She's on TikTok and she does remote viewing, but she's also gets downloads from the Galactic Federation and that sort of stuff. Young girl in her like 20s or 30s. And she talked about remote viewing onto the moon and the theory that in fact they did have footage from the moon landing, from the real moon landing, but then they had to create other footage and they shifted it all together so that it was semi like that. And so then you have the internet, that sort of stuff, which they weren't counting on having progress so very quickly. And now we can go back and see that the shoe print's not correct. The flag is flying when it shouldn't be. Like all of these
terrible, in the studio, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, bullshit.
And who filmed the ship landing?
The cameraman. The cameraman. It always just hurts my heart. And the other thing.
Or was it a Nordic person? They were like, we'll film you guys. Just get the
The reptilians are like, okay, just to your left, team. No, okay. Anyway, I love it.
So reptilians became involved in Hollywood.
I tell you what, from an actor's perspective, we're like, bullshit. We've been on set. We know how this works. The indescribable Octoman says the moon, who knows? It's impossible for us simpletons to know unless we astro travel there. Thank you. I feel like I've just answered your question for you. Whether or not that was a question, I'll take that.
Simpletons? Probably. We don't know enough.
After last week's conversation about George, do you remember George Van Tassel? Who said that George Van Tassel, who was back in the 1950s, he was one of the first to kind of introduce the idea of the Galactic Federation and those sort of words. And he suggested that the mothership was actually 70,000 miles above Earth. And so is that the moon? Not quite sure. But it wouldn't surprise me in the least that the moon was in fact some sort of a, Death Star, Star Wars.
And hence how Star Wars was written. By a member of the
George Lucas. Seriously, get an original idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so I love that. Thank you so much for bringing that. And I think that's really cool. I think there's some real cool ideas in there, and we should definitely jump into those a little bit.
I mean, you've got to look at it. I mean, we're talking about the Galactic Federation and what's kind of more there to, not so much back it up, but to say, hey, things aren't right. There are other entities here. The moon wasn't here before. Okay, let's look into that more. So
yeah. So interesting. And I love it when people bring theories up that you then go, actually, I feel like that's got some feet to it. Let's
I find it fascinating. Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it's and that's it. That's us. We go back into native cultures and stuff like that. And it literally, there's 3 or 4 there, maybe 5 that say there was no moon here.
Yeah. Have you stumbled on a wee little diamond, Juliet?
Oh, I stumbled on many diamonds, but which one are we going for?
Okay, well, let's go for the introduction, eh? Jules, why don't you stop me whenever you want. If you've got a piece of information to drop in, you just freaking get in there, all right? I'm going to read through my information and deliver just a compelling bringer of truth documentary. Fuck. So sorry. Anyway, right.
Let me just hang on. Let me just take a drink.
Quick, drink. Good Lord. All right. Alleged treaties and agreements between Earth's governments and extraterrestrial species. If you've got any questions you want us to veer off track, feel free to drop it in the comments on YouTube. We will veer off. We're like way cool. Veering off. And please feel free to share this. If you haven't shared this live yet, please just drop it into your Facebook or onto your YouTube or something. Do us a favor.
Our opinions are the better. Good or bad. Live.
For decades, claims have circulated that Earth's governments have engaged in secret meetings, agreements, and technological exchanges with extraterrestrial species. And I've been talking to Juliet about this forever. That's not a real crash. It's just a transfer of technology. Ha ha ha. While mainstream authorities consistently deny these allegations, a persistent stream of whistleblowers, yes, the disclosure project's right now going on, investigators and former officials present a totally different narrative, which I'm absolutely loving. It's so cool to watch that story unfold and just kind of see what's going on. So we're basically going to go through some of the most prominent and reoccurring claims kind of related to the Galactic Federation, alien treaties. We're going to dive into some abductions, mutilations, because it's all part of it, and the technology transfers. We're going to highlight a couple of different people, some species, and we'll just run over the top so that everyone's got a bit of a good idea as to kind of what we're talking about. And then there will be opportunities to dive a little bit deeper into a couple of different things. So, do you remember what the Galactic Federation is?
Apparently, it's where 1,000 species come together and discuss how naughty Earth is.
That's actually the best description ever. I just keep trying to push the big red button, the freaking losers. What does that button do? So we've got the Galactic Federation, which is frequently described as basically a coalition of advanced extraterrestrial species. Obviously, species that are more evolved than we are. You've got a whole heap of different ones which we'll just run over the top of so that everyone kind of remembers. But basically, you've got this Galactic Federation, and then you've got the Confederation of Planets, which is the peaceful kind of enlightening side, that they just want us to enlighten ourselves and lift our conscious awareness and all that sort of stuff so that there won't be any of this war anymore. And then the Galactic Federation is far more in tune with go in and smash the living shit out of them and fix the problems. You've then got the Intergalactic Confederation, which is basically our galaxy and the other galaxies around, which of which there's exponential. And then you've got the people that, or the species that sit on top of that. You've then got the councils that come through that give them advice, spiritual advice, all of that sort of stuff. So we're talking about the Galactic Federation, which is essentially kind of like the species or the federation that looks after Earth and other evolving planets and species in our galaxy by itself, right? So some of the species that are referenced or commonly referenced in the Federation, and feel free to tell us that we're wrong. This is just the information that we've picked up and researched. It's just our opinion. You guys can have your own opinion and drop us a comment because we'll answer them 100%. You've got the Lyrans, a feline humanoid being said to be one of the oldest species, and Juliet went into this last week. If you haven't seen that episode, jump in there. She goes really deep into what these species are and kind of what they're known for as well, right? You've got the Arcturians, technologically advanced healers involved in conscious upliftment. Andromedans, philosophical and spiritual beings advocating freedom. So again, those are in the Confederation of the Worlds, or there's lots of different names for it, but we'll just call it that. You've then got the tall greys, described as strategic and diplomatic, yet untrustworthy, apparently. And you've got the Pleiadians, peace-orientated species, often warning of negative influences from other factions. And those factions would be the insectoids, the praying mantis dudes, the ant guys, reptilians or the draconians that are said to live inside of Earth, and the Orions, which would be the small greys as well. So there's definitely the goods and the bads, and then the people that sit in between that go, oh, I don't really want to get involved. So, yeah, no.
Other ones are going, do not give them any more technology. They're going to blow themselves up.
100%. Yeah, yeah. And that is the issue, is the Confederation of Worlds is very much like, we just can't keep giving them that they need to lift, they need to ascend. They need to get up here so that they stop worrying about all of this materialistic bullshit and stop blowing each other up and running on this kind of, thing of war. And one of the pieces of research I did for last week's, somebody said something like, every time you're on social media or something like that, and you get into an online argument or you get into a dispute with someone else's opinion, it's the same frequency. You're creating this really low level frequency, which then manifests these sort of negative outcomes in these negative situations. So then you imagine doing a Project Mockingbird where everyone's doing it, right? Where everyone's arguing. All you got to do is look at politics in America. Everyone's having the same negative low frequency. Well, all of a sudden you've manifested this spate on mass, right? And so that's probably like kind of where they're coming from is
and then you come to countries like New Zealand and Australia, and where people, we vote, but we don't really give a shit, to be honest.
They're all corrupt and yeah. Until you come onto my land and tell me what to do, and I give you a 50 cent one of those silver things.
We all know it's a pile of crap anyway. It's already controlled, it's already sorted. So yeah, it's
yeah, absolutely. And we don't have and we don't have guns like America does, like, I mean, we all have guns, but we don't really have guns. Okay. Anyway, gun reform, yeah. We don't really have those, but it's okay, stop it. I'm going to get myself in so much trouble. Okay, so there's an article that I wanted to bring up really quickly. There's a guy called Gary McKinnon. Have you ever heard of him, Jules?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Gary McKinnon. I'm just going to share the screen if that's all right. And I'm going to bring up this article because he was one of the first to talk. Oh, go away. He was one of the first to really talk about extraterrestrial officers. So do you know the story of Gary McKinnon?
Something about, I read this. It was something about like going into doorways, and wasn't it? And it was like, is he? Well,
he did the biggest military hack of all time. So he hacked into so many different military computer systems and was just like, oh, this is really, really easy. And I was listening to an interview with him, and he is just the funniest dude ever. My brother once hacked into a bank, but he was 10 because he wanted to get money for everyone because he thought that would be autistic, right? So this gentleman hacked into NASA systems, hacked into the Pentagon, basically through people's security codes, passwords or security system, their logins that had no passwords. So he essentially set up this little bot to go around and find all of these logins that had no passwords associated to them, because you're part of NASA, you're part of the Pentagon. Why the hell would you need a password? Once you're in, like high security. He found all of these things and logged in. Yeah. And he goes, and the only reason I bloody got caught was they kept seeing the mouse move or things move, and so then they were like, oh, shut him out. Anyway, so
but for those people out there who want to hack, find an invisible mouse.
yeah. That's what you gotta find, man. So his story is so interesting. But one of the things that he went into when he was looking through, I think it was the Pentagon, CIA sort of stuff. I'm just trying to find where he said it. He basically, he got himself in big trouble. Yeah. He basically was talking about some documents that he and he got himself into big trouble. He's not able to live a normal life and all that sort of stuff, right? And I think he's under extradited orders at the moment, so they want to put him in jail and everything else. So basically what happened was he went into sorry, I'm just reading out here. He says, I found out that my landline was being bugged, so every day on the phone talking to my friend, I made sure I'd say, da, 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 la, la, la. Okay, so basically he says, yeah, says Gary, the non-terrestrial officers, the spaceships, the whole world thinks it's cooperating in building the International Space Station, but you've already got a space-based army that you refer to as non-terrestrial officers. So basically, he found classified documents that talked about these non-terrestrial officers that were off Earth. They were in space, and they were being run by certain people. There was names, there was spaceship names, and he found a whole heap of information that he was just baffled by. He was like, why? What is this? What is this? He couldn't figure it out at all. And so he downloaded all this information, read on through. He said he got cut off at one point because, I don't know where the actual stuff is, unfortunately, but he said he got cut off at one point trying to find more information on this because he was really, really into UFOs, right? He was like, UFOs, yeah. So he thought, I'll hack into NASA and I'll get this information. And so there was like a spreadsheet on there talking about non-terrestrial officers, and they had their names, they had where they were based, and they had the spaceships that they were associated to. And he was just blown away. He was like, sure, this could have been an operation, like a pretend kind of tactical operation, war game sort of thing. He said, but why the hell would you do that? And then why would you leave it in a folder called non-terrestrial officers? So
I mean, there's been rumors for years, hasn't there, that and I mean years and years, that there is already basically we already have a space station up there. It's already in working order. I mean, that has been going around for years and years and years.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he was the first one I stumbled on talking about non-terrestrial officers that gives some sort of credibility to, outside of, like all of these alleged stories of meetings and stuff, that potentially there is non-terrestrial officers and people, human beings that are up in space or on different planets or whatever, or in spaceships that are conducting this sort of policies, procedures, all of the above, right? So I just wanted to share Gary's story because not that we condone hacking on any way, shape or form, unless you're hacking into my mortgage account and wiping it.
That would be great.
Just putting it out there, anyone. But we don't condone hacking.
But you've got to give it to you got these whistleblowers and stuff that come out and they do some pretty
yeah. Look, 100%. And you put yourself at risk when you're a whistleblower massively. All you have to do is look at the CIA and the FBI and the programs that they've done and the amount of people that they have removed from the way, the obstacles, and tied up the loose ends. Do you know what I mean? And those are well documented. And especially with Donald Trump releasing the last of the Martin Luther King files and the JFK files, the CIA has been held accountable-ish for the Martin Luther King death because they killed him. And that's all part of the documentation that has been released. And so if they're willing to do that to somebody in the public eye, what are they willing to do to you?
There is so much stuff there. And as we learn, as we're talking to the cult of conspiracy boys, like Lisa and I will quite often be having deep conversations, and we get cut off all the time. We always have issues with our phones and everything. And we started talking to the boys, and we were literally cut off like three times. Three times we had issues, and the guys were like, we have never ever had issues like this before. And Lisa were like, oh, we do. All the time. We're like,
all
hi guys.
time. Yeah. We're like, are you guys listening? I hope you're learning something.
Yeah, they probably get annoyed with us.
Yeah,
but
probably.
It kind of makes it really interesting. All this stuff kind of comes out. They talk about the Stargates and, all this kind of stuff. And, one of the things that we covered about the reptilians and about, these people that are in power, and it is said a lot that they need to tell us what they're doing.
Sure.
And that is a big thing. They need to tell us, because then they can't be caught out and go, oh, you lied to us. They need to tell us what they're doing. And going, a little bit of thing, you've got, George Lucas with the whole Star Wars thing. Is there something going on? People talk about the Stargate, the TV show Stargate. Is there, was there a Stargate actually found in Egypt? Was it, are people going through it? There's all these kind of theories, and you kind of take them with a grain of salt, go, oh yeah, okay, yeah. But like the more information that comes out, it's just like you kind of go, that kind of makes a little bit more sense now. You've got like celebrities, you've got top news people, politicians coming out going, oh, I'm going to eat your kids, or blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. It's just like, oh, I drink blood, carry on the conversation. And there was a bunch of very, very well-known celebrities and singer the other day. I won't probably say it here because I don't want us to get banned, but they were literally having a wine and then basically saluted the devil and was like, yay, but woman, then they just kind of carried on.
Dolly.
Yeah. So you're just like, it's like, are they doing it as a publicity thing? Is that part of it? It's just
honestly,
like,
Jules, I think there's a whole nother layer that we don't go into on YouTube. Obviously, that's for our dungeon talk in our back end kind of website.
We've already been threatened to be banned.
We don't want to get banned. We love you, YouTube. There's a lot of that's kind of deeper occult, dark stuff going on, ritualistic, symbolic stuff going on, that is 100% entrenched in fame, glory, power, money, wealth, all of those materialistic things that is totally against what the Confederation of Planets is about, right?
But but that's like they're saying that connection, like Satan or Lucifer or whoever these other entities aren't kind of spiritual entities, they're alien entities. And that's why I brought it up, because that's it, are they spiritual? Are they alien entities?
Well, Bob Lazar said, have you heard the interview that Bob Lazar had with somebody, with an interviewer a while ago about one of the most disturbing things that he read when he was at Area 51, working on UFOs and that sort of stuff. And he read some documents that was in a filing cabinet that he found in regards to religion and aliens, extraterrestrial species, and humans, in that humans are vessels, and that not vessels for anything, we're just vessels. We're just a container. That's what he said. Yeah. Humans are containers. And the interviewer goes, oh, like containers for what? And he said, no, just containers.
Yeah.
That's it. We're just here for the DNA containers.
Yeah, and that's it, and that's that's the thing that you kind of go into with all of this is that as you say, we've heard so many different theories, and that's it. The other one is basically when you die, your so-called soul or whatever basically just goes up and gets trapped and then spat back out again, or it just keeps up there until they're ready for you to come back down again. So they don't care that we're killing each other. They're just basically going, oh, there's another one. Let's just chuck another one and, chuck you over there.
Yeah, big experiment. Well, that gives credence to the idea or the theory that Earth is a jail planet, right? It's a prison planet.
Yeah. But I mean, there's so many.
I don't know. I mean, like at the same time, I'm like, you've got these extraterrestrial races that are very much teaching specific people, specific humans about enlightening themselves, about connecting to the ancient wisdom and knowledge and that sort of stuff. And there's so many more people now, like you see it on TikTok, telekinesis, remote viewing, all of these psychic abilities that are starting to be kind of opened back up and connected and that sort of stuff. And so I do think that it's not, Earth isn't just a prison planet. I definitely think there's like in the spiritual kind of cosmic space where we do manifest whatever we feel, right? Whatever we feel when we speak, that becomes our reality, 100%. I don't think that's an ethereal sort of idea. I think that is reality based. And if you're sitting there forever going, oh, my life is shit, my life is shit, my life is shit, well then, yes, you're going to manifest that in your life. That will be your reality. You will get sick. Your body will not vibrate at the right frequency. When you eat well, when you look after your body and you feel happy, everything vibrates at the right frequency. And then all of a sudden things just start falling into place. Yeah. Things become easy and you meet the right people and you're on the right path and all of that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, I think kind of confederation of planets is a cool place to hang out. Kind of hang out with those guys.
Yeah, can we have the nice dudes?
Although I do like guns, but I don't want to get shot by an insectoid. That freaks the living shit out of me. Anyway, let's talk about alleged Earth extraterrestrial meetings. Juliet, do you know when the first one was?
February was Dwight.
That's not the first.
Is that not the first? Okay, go. I have Dwight Eisenhower's alleged meeting.
All right, that's cool. Yeah, well, his is the most famous, right? Prominent. Yeah. So let's talk about that in a second. Okay, so the alleged first, it's unconfirmed. No shit. That's funny. First US contact, right? Nordic-like humanoids. So apparently it was, the Nordic race of people. Human involvement, rumored intermediaries within early US military intelligence. Interesting. Details. Claims suggest a preliminary
that's why she needs to drink. Carry on.
Preliminary contact between humans and Nordics to offer spiritual guidance, rejected in favor of more technological options. So that apparently was the details of this. However, right, there is more to it. So apparently, 1934, basically this somewhat of a meeting happened with US military officials. They had this big old conversation with the Nordics. They said, we'll enlighten you. We'll give you all of this spiritual knowledge, We don't need war. And remembering, this is 1934, right? So this is before World War II. 1944, 1942. World War I. World War I. World War I. I can't remember. Okay, so in 1944 there was a giant world war, but the depression hit 1920s, right? So they were right in between that sort of place.
Okay, World War I was 1914 to 1918.
There you go. Yep. So that hit, and then the depression hit where they had nothing, and then this meeting started 1934, and then World War II was 1940s, right? And so this is way before Roswell, before all of the UFOs started kicking off, and that whole big kind of what do they call it? the UFO, bugger it, English, where they just had like mass sightings everywhere, right? That big flap of
Roosevelt.
Who was there? Teddy Roosevelt?
Yeah, Franklin Roosevelt.
Oh, Franklin, Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy.
Like I know what I'm talking about.
He was holding office from 1933 to 1945.
Yes. So during that time, apparently there was a military meeting. So this basically at the same time, and I kind of went down this big rabbit hole to try and get some sort of evidence to validate this, right? I was like, there has got to be something going on, and where's the connections and stuff like that, right? A lady called Helena Blavatsky. Do you know her?
Nope.
Helena Blavatsky died in 1891. She was the co-founder of the Theosophical Society in 1875, along with all of the other occult practitioners and all of those sort of people. Yeah. And she introduced the concept of ascended masters or masters of ancient wisdom, claiming that they were highly evolved spiritual beings guiding humanity's evolution. Essentially, she had downloads from alien species back in kind of the late 1800s, right? And there's so much more to do with her into all sorts of different places. But she is really, really important because she was connected to the likes of Shambhala, the likes of Atlantis, the likes of Lemuria. She was given a lot of information around that sort of stuff, and very much connected to the Confederation of Planets, right? That's spiritual enlightenment, essentially connecting with, Buddhist monks and gurus and all those sort of people. But the reason why I bring her up is because there was a guy called George Adamski, and George Adamski was he wrote a book about the Nordic meetings in 1952, which is what you're going to get into shortly in regards to Eisenhower. He had almost identical encounters to Madame Blavatsky, but almost 100 years apart. So his downloads and the things that he was getting and the connections and all of that telepathic information was almost identical to what she was receiving 100 years prior. So he ended up writing a book with a guy called Desmond Leslie, putting this book out, talking about the Galactic Federation, the Enlightenment, and all of this sort of stuff almost based on what Helena Blavatsky had brought to the table. Like very,
was he aware of her stuff? Did he mention her at all?
Well, that's what I looked into. No, he probably was influenced by it, but because they were in different places, she was European, because they were in different places in the late 1800s, early 1900s, with all the war and that sort of stuff going on, the likelihood of him being privy to that sort of information was pretty low because he was in the States. And with all the war going on, that's kind of what I looked into. I was like, okay, so you've got this going on, then you've got the Depression, and then you've got World War I. The likelihood of him even getting her books or her teachings through Theosophical Society, very, very, very low. So I gave kind of validation to that because I was like, he's probably getting the same sort of downloads and the same telepathic communication to that Helena was getting to the same
and this is what other people claim as well, isn't it? People who are channeling all have that same, it's all based around the same stuff, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, the same sort of entities or the same information essentially from that. And so that's why I was like, okay, we could say that the first meeting was 1952 with Eisenhower. However, I honestly think that the first kind of that first meeting with Nordic humanoids was like 1934, just before that World War I kicked off, or World War II kicked off.
It's almost like they were like, it didn't work with this president. I mean, did they try and talk to this president? Did they talk to Roosevelt?
Yeah.
And I have heard rumors about Roosevelt. If I'd said Roosevelt, so I have heard rumors about him having alien contact.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, he was military, which means, like they've got this mindset, when you're raised in a family or in a space where you have this mindset, that is what you do. What kind of thing? Like, you're going to show up and be a giant blonde Nordic person and tell me to be enlightened and start meditating. We've got wars to win, people.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? You know, that's kind of, it would have been so foreign for them. No, there was no
100%.
enlightenment. You had like all your hippies in the 1970s, you know, starting around that time.
Yeah.
But when it came to all of that stuff, you know, so you kind of wonder, was that whole the hippie revolution influenced, you know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
free, I mean, you could just go into so much. So it makes you wonder if they kind of went, hey, let's try this president. Like, nah, let's try the next one.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, actually, I think they've probably already had a trial on kind of what could work. Let's try and stop, World War II potentially from happening. And remembering Roswell happened in 1947, right? So it happened before this 1952 catch up that Eisenhower had, just after World War II kind of stopped in 1946, I think. Or is it 94? Or 44. So yeah, around that time. So I just wanted to give you a bit of a timeline that I think these kind of contractual sort of meetings were happening around the 30s, 1930s.
Yeah. So Harry Truman, we don't know much about the American president. Sorry, guys.
No, sorry.
Harry Truman became the president in 1945 upon Roosevelt's death until 1953, and then it became Dwight Eisenhower.
So Truman was part of that Roosevelt sort of space, Roswell sort of crash space, which is said to have been a technology transfer. It wasn't said to have been a crash at all. It was make it look like a crash, but let's give you this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. Anyway, so that was my first one, and I would love to do a full episode on Helena Blavatsky and their occult practices. She was a very, very enlightened woman. She was also pretty dark, man. She was into some real bad juju.
Yeah. No, which is cool. So so after that, so obviously
54, I beg your pardon. Sorry.
Yeah, 54. Yeah, same before. Yeah. So I mean that's it. So they talk about the presidential briefing of the tall whites. That's how that's how a lot of people will kind of refer to it. Which, tall whites, Nordics, back in whatever, with Roosevelt and stuff, so it's basically, this is what I was saying like last week. I think a lot of them are pretty much all similar. The Nordics, the tall whites, all the Scandinavian looking ones are all blonde, beautiful looking, it's just like, yeah, okay.
I have a stake.
Whatever. So for him, that is, and as people know, there has been a long-standing rumor, like in the UFO kind of community, among whistleblowers from the military, government things, all talking about how basically how Eisenhower was briefed on an extraterrestrial race, and had this meeting. So,
do you know he had 3 meetings?
There were a few meetings. Like he basically, like the first meeting that he had, he went onto an alleged, I think he went to a dentist thing. He disappeared for a while and he had a dentist appointment or something. So dentist appointment.
Quote, in quotation marks.
But I mean, that's it. They talk about, they were saying that they were tall, white, pale skin, blue-eyed, blonde beings, spiritually evolved, they were telepathic. And what I loved about it is they're saying that they were way more chill than what the Greys were, which I thought was really funny. Funny. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he allegedly had the secret meeting with the extraterrestrials in February 1954, either at the Edwards Air Force Base, which was then Moorock AFB, or at the Holloman Air Force Base, depending on, where you are sitting. So Eisenhower was reportedly missing for a short period while vacationing in Palm Springs. The official explanation for that one was that he had emergency dental work. So during this time, it said that he met with this group of extraterrestrials, Nordic type beings called the Tall Whites. so who also that what they warned him to basically dismantle nuclear weapons, pursue peace, and look into the spiritual growth in exchange for technology and guidance. And so according to like the whistleblowers and researchers, he declined their offer because they refused to basically offer technology without disarmament, which he was not willing to agree. That, you know, they were like, you know, we are basically the holders of these nuclear weapons, we are in charge. And you know,
well, given he was right in the middle of the Cold War, right?
Yeah.
And for America to kind of lay down arms and go, actually, we're not going to have anything to do with it, that was a big risk to take.
Yeah. So later, and a different agreement was reportedly reached with another race, which they say were the Greys, which is I find really interesting, because, you know, some people say the Greys are more like kind of hive, and, you know, they're not really intelligent.
Oh no, this is with the tall Greys though.
This is the tall Greys.
The Acturians.
They don't say tall Greys, they just say the Greys, you know, so you just don't know. So they were more willing to exchange tech in return for limited access for abductions. And basically, you know, this is where the thing goes.
But that would feed into the small Greys, right? Because they are well known for abductions. I don't know that the tall Greys are known for abductions, as far as like
So this is it. So that was like, you know, that was the deal that they reckon that they did. That, okay, we're going to give you information. You can keep your nuclear, you know, stuff going on. You can keep all your weapons, but we want access to humans, and you're not allowed to stop us, basically. So this is, you know, so that could kind of explain why, you know, people are being abducted. Who knows? But
well, I go into a little bit deeper, because that was the rabbit hole I ended up going down. I was like, how does this agreement affect things? And then there's other treaties and stuff. So you finish what you're talking about, because this is really great.
So some of the people that were backing up this story was Charles Hall. He's a former USAF weather observer who claims that he had personal contact with the tall whites at Nellis AFB in Nevada. Dr. Michael Seller, exopolitics researcher who has basically analyzed the Eisenhower claims for like many, many years. And
we talked about him last week. In fact, he was my go-to book guy about the Galactic Federation.
And Paul Hellyer, a former Canadian Defence Minister. He's spoken out multiple times about alien contacts of like Nordic type, and basically, you know, having contact and stuff with these things. So, you know, this all like, and so, you know, this kind of feeds into the whole broader thing of the government agencies having contact, breakaway civilizations. There's ongoing contact behind the doors, you know, it's, you know, and then that kind of goes into, you know, this is who the Galactic Federation is, you know, so they're talking about how there's, you know, these aliens basically coming down. So if they're doing that, then there must be some kind of higher being out there. But so it's really
that's cool.
I find it really interesting.
So what are your thoughts on the Nordics being up Mount Shasta? Have you heard those stories?
Yeah.
A little bit off topic, but I hear a lot of stories about like encounters of people going missing and people seeing these beings, these Nordic-looking beings.
Nordic-looking beings. Yeah. I mean, it all depends on kind of what areas that you go into, isn't it? And you know, these Nordic beings are supposed to be the all-enlightening, all-wonderful people, but you know, as we discussed last week, with some of these abductions, where these people have had like the most horrendous kind of experiments done on it. Basically, these so-called Nordics or tall whites have been standing there watching, and some say even giving orders to what to do. Just, you know, so if they're here for kind of peace and enlightenment, so that kind of, you know, that goes into that whole manipulation thing. So was there a deal made? You know, the Greys maybe came in, hey, we went this, but I don't believe the Greys are like a controlling thing. I think they're being controlled.
Like the small greys, the Orions. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think the tall greys, though, I think they're far more like higher up on the hierarchy. And I've heard numerous stories that the tall greys have had high level meetings with officials. But I think they come from a place of peace, and that's why I was so I got that information as well. The second group of extraterrestrials appeared, known as the tall greys.
This is the small way. So this is why, that's why they say the government has agreed to abductions.
And 100%, 100%.
So maybe there's a quota every year. Who knows? Maybe that quota is going up.
I think so. Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of shenanigans going on as far as fiduciary, as far as we can take as many as we want and you can't stop us.
Yeah.
Situation going on. So the information that I got was, unlike the Nordics, the Greys had a more transactional offer. They proposed sharing advanced technology, energy systems, propulsion methods, and medical insights in return for one chilling concession: permission to conduct limited abductions on humans and animals for biological research. The condition: the subjects must be returned unharmed and the program must remain secret. And so I was kind of like, okay, unharmed by what level, and how many are we talking? Are we talking thousands of people every year? Are we talking just generational bloodlines?
Yeah.
Like what's the rest of the conditions on this
and also like high areas of abductions, like certain places. A lot of abductions from certain places, and then nothing from here, or sporadic ones maybe around the world and random places. But it seems to be focused on certain areas, I find, which is really interesting. Or like you're saying, it's a generational thing where people are coming out saying, for the last 5 generations that they've known of, they've been abducted and stuff like that. As we found out with Leslie and Stephen. That there was some like pretty horrendous stuff going on there. So yeah, it's
100%, it was pretty mental. So the thing that I then kind of went into was a thing called the Greater Treaty, which is all about abductions, and we're going to go into that, I promise you, in a second. So just pop a pin in that Greater Greater, depending on what country you're from. So my next one, do you have any other ones that you want to go into real quick? Okay, cool. 1972. So we're jumping ahead a few years. Feel free to jump in here whenever you want. Human alien base on Mars.
Oh, Mars. Okay.
Mars. So this guy was a whistleblower, Brigadier General Haim Eshid. He's from Israel, or around. So basically he was a whistleblower that came out, and essentially he was the former head of Israel's military intelligence directorate space programs from 1981 to 2010. So he lasted in that space program a very, very long time. He said he was visited by many as the father of Israel's satellite and space initiatives. And obviously won multiple national awards doing what he was doing. He was pretty high up in that space. And he's essentially come out and talked about what has happened over the years as far as agreements, contracts, galactic federations, all of the above. So basically a little timeline of events, and you can find this on the news really, really easily. So Ishard alleges that between 1972 and 1976, an underground base on Mars was established, co-managed by human astronauts and alien representatives. The base reportedly represented cooperative collaboration, not simply surveillance, used for shared scientific research, development, and possible technological exchange with Earth's governments. Something that we talked about last week was these meetings, these Galactic Federation meetings that were happening on Jupiter, apparently. So Mars is just a hop, skipping away from Jupiter, isn't it? Hop, skipping on the planets. Overview of the agreement. According to Ishad, the US and the Israeli government officials were briefed on the existence of this base, so it was already pre-built.
Okay.
However, these officials were warned by the Galactic Federation and others that public revelation would cause mass hysteria, and thus an information embargo on disclosure remains in effect. So essentially, these government officials, military officials, are being told by the Galactic Federation they are not to release this documentation and information. We are not ready yet. We haven't ascended high enough to be able to understand it and
blah blah blah, bloody aliens, man. It's all they say.
You can't handle it.
Can't handle your shit.
Apparently. So he also claims that aliens have been actively preventing nuclear incidences, and I would agree with this 100%, such as averting a Soviet strike during the Bay of Pigs crisis. We're not going to go into that, but definitely have a look at some episodes on the Bay of Pigs. That is a very, very interesting space, by monitoring military systems on Earth. And there are numerous accounts that UFOs have flown over nuclear bases and shut them down. The Galactic Federation requested a pause in disclosure even when former US President Donald Trump, in his last term, was reportedly ready to go public, fearing societal shock. So you can, like I said, you can find this article by Google searching very, very easily. And it is backed up by numerous other military officials that is just what's happening. And I don't know how much I believe Israel. I don't know how much I believe people in high power positions, and saying that what have they got to lose talking about crazy bases on Mars?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like we're saying, this is it. There's always this thing is what they always come back to. Oh, we're not ready for it. We're not ready for it. We're not ready for it. And so they finally come out when, oh, these alien ships. I'm like, oh my God, everyone's like,
we're ready for it.
People within the UFO community know that there is contact going on. It's not going to be a big shock. I mean, possibly for the people out there who don't believe, probably,
it's going to be one fucking hell of a shock.
It's going to be one hell of a shock for them. But, because, and I think that's the thing, because if they come out and go, these aliens, maybe that is part of the religious thing. And then they have to go, well, actually, it's not a God, it's an alien. I mean, there's so many kind of things.
There's so many implications around religion and stuff as well, isn't there?
Yeah. And, that's it. Religions rule the governments, and, we all know that. It's a very big part of it,
100%.
There's a lot of control there with many churches. So it's, look.
So I've got a Russian abduction case in 1997. It's by a guy who was the former president of Kalyamika in the Russian Federation.
Well.
And his name was Kursin, and we're going to call him Kursin because I can't say his last name. Iiyumzhi
Do you have a picture of Kursin?
I do not, and that's fine. Because Kursin's got quite a cool story, but it's not the first type of abduction story that I've heard from US officials or high military officials in different countries, right? So he claimed abduction by aliens in 1997 in Moscow. According to him, he was telepathically transported aboard a UFO and communicated with extraterrestrials. He stated that he was accompanied by witnesses, including his driver, his assistant, and the minister. And a minister from the Russian Federation. Rumors circulated in the Russian government circles that he may have disclosed sensitive state information to these beings, prompting parliamentary members to demand a formal state inquiry via a letter to the president, Dmitry one of the older
Dmitry, the president.
One of the older Russian presidents. But so the thing that got me with this one, and that's why I added it in, was I was like, they wanted a formal inquiry. There was more than one person involved. There was at least 3 of them of all high-level government officials that are all saying the same thing. There was more than one witness, and the Russian government took it very seriously. And so I was like, yeah, absolutely. Whereas I feel like the Americans and other governments, not just America by any way, shape, or form, but other Western governments will go, oh, that's nothing, and probably do an underlying investigation. Whereas Russia was very much like, here you go, let's do a full inquiry because we don't want you sharing secrets with anyone up there.
I mean, it's the same thing. Look at Peru. The Peruvian government has also opened an official, basically, alien contact. It's open. The public knows about it.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It's fantastic that they do that, and they've got ongoing, there's a lot of contact down there. There's a lot of ships being seen, entities, you name it. And it's all taken, they believe what's going on. People are coming to them going, this is what I've seen, this is what's going on. And it's like, okay, that's cool. Whereas, in kind of more than Western society, you kind of get fobbed off. You're like, oh yeah, okay, oh cool, okay, we'll put this in, but this is just for you UFO guys, to keep happy about. When it comes to the public and the government, so-called connection there, it's just like kind of, let's just hide this over here, and
then they will stop asking questions and they'll go back to their normal materialistic lives and will continue. And that just gives credence to the idea or the theory that reptilians are running our governments. Because they want to maintain that war, that negative, that continue the materialistic viewpoint, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so remember we talked about the Creator Treaty in 1954, the Eisenhower Treaty. So that was the name of the treaty that apparently they may or may not have signed, right? And we're talking about the one with the tall grays, the abductions, the animal mutilations, all of the above, right? So President Eisenhower is said to have been directly involved in the discussions, and although he said no to the Nordics because they wanted him to put guns down during the Cold War, he highly likely said yes to the tall grays so that they had permission to come in and abduct a limited number of humans, limited number in quotation marks of humans, and animals for mutilations and genetic sampling, right? And it's called the Creator Treaty. So the agreement relied that no public disclosure was to take place, and this is possibly one of the reasons why there's still no public disclosure. The US will allow these operations to continue quietly under the condition that subjects were not harmed and that they would be returned after study. Basically, there was a handshake agreement and left everything completely in the dark. The reason why I bring up the Creator Treaty is because there was a group called the Majestic 12 that was set up. Have you heard about the Majestic 12?
No, I have not.
So the Majestic 12 is a group that was set up by an executive order of President Harry S. Truman, right, back in 1947. It was formed just following the Roswell incident. So we have to go kind of back and forth a little bit just to kind of figure out how everything connects, right? So after the Roswell incident, he formed the Majestic 12 basically to coordinate and conceal other UFO and extraterrestrial related operations. Remembering 1934 was potentially the first kind of connection between the Galactic Federation and human or military governments. And they may very well have signed a treaty then. And that's some of the theories coming through, that Roswell was in fact a technology transition. It wasn't a crash or transaction, I beg your pardon. And that would have had to have been done in that 1934 meeting. Makes sense? Because that then happened in 1947.
Very interesting.
So the purpose of the Majestic 12 was to oversee crash recovery and reverse engineering programs, negotiate and enforce alleged treaties or agreements with alien species. There we go. And this is why I had to bring up all of this other stuff. Maintain total secrecy from the public and even other branches of the government. And we know that the government, especially the US government, is very, very compartmentalized. They do it on purpose so that you cannot screw everything up, and it's all very, very separated. It supposedly included 12 elite individuals from the US military leadership, intelligence agencies, CIA and the NSA, and top scientists and defense contractors. You can look and find documentation on CIA, FBI, and NSA websites of the Majestic 12. It's really, really easy to find this sort of stuff.
Yep.
So there was leaked documents, and this brings us to 1952, right?
I'm just checking you on mute.
Sure. It includes a briefing paper dated 1952, allegedly prepared for President Eisenhower, just privy to his meeting in 1954. Supposed to detail ongoing contact with aliens and UFO crash investigations. Documents reference Roswell, extraterrestrial biological entities, and secret bases. Love secret bases. The official status is obviously that, you know, they were forgeries. The Majestic 12 documents were all pretend, they were all faked. None of the alleged materials ever appear in the presidential libraries or the official archives, and anything in the FBI vault publicly lists these documents, but they mark them as bogus. And you can go and search these documents. They are very heavily redacted and 100% not bullshit. True, true, true. Love it. Majestic 12 is connected to management of Area 51, the Greater Treaty, which was apparently signed in 1954 with Eisenhower, and oversight into things like Project Blue Book, and report number 13. And I'm going to go into report number 13 in Project Blue Book. And obviously said to continue with secret operations going on, like MJ1 through to MJ12. So the story goes that MJ12 was, you know, the mainstream narrative, or the official narrative, is that Majestic 12 was bullshit. Nothing really happened. It was never something that actually happened, but you can find all the documentation and declassified reports. At the same time, it is said to still be going. It is said to have different factions.
Still going, yeah.
And it's said to have a fair amount of management and oversight into Project Blue Book and Area 51.
Yeah.
So
are the official people named that were supposedly part of the?
I think you can actually find those. Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah. I mean, that is a massive rabbit hole in itself. A lot of it's redacted, but there are a lot of whistleblowers coming out talking about Majestic 12, because it was so long ago. You know, it was in 1950s, 1947.
Yeah. So they will literally be part of the Galactic Federation kind of contact.
Connections. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And you know, the Greater Treaty links in with Majestic 12. They would have helped correspond on that, and you know, they're basically a council of people helping to make decisions.
So do you think these people, because you know, you talk about I forgot the name of the mountain, like in Alaska.
Oh.
Yeah, the one where they reckon at the Black Triangle.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, so it's like, what are those also parts of it? Are those kind of like bases that they've allowed here, or are those bases, supposed bases, been here before, or are they part of that kind of contact of, you know?
Well, look, you know, if you're going to have alien races on your planet, and you're the
you've got to have somewhere to go.
You've got to have infrastructure. You know, you've got to have infrastructure. You've got to have landing pads, and you have to have secret bases, right, to hold your secrets. It's really important. And there's so many like little diamonds in here, and you can take any one of these diamonds and run with it. And you know, Majestic 12 in itself would just be such a cool little rabbit hole to go down and do a talk on that. And there's so many amazing people on YouTube and TikTok and other platforms that are delivering really, really well researched information, and bringing receipts to the table as well, saying, here's my source, I've tested the source, here it is. So it's not just anecdotal kind of stories. Oh, my dad's brother told me this story. It's no, here's the unredacted document. Here's the
Documents,
declassified file. So yeah, really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, are you ready?
Uh-oh. Oh, when she says
I
that,
tell
we
you,
know we're in trouble.
my heater's on quite high. I'm actually just like sweating it up in the sauna here. Are you ready? Are you ready Are you ready for human abductions?
Oh, always.
Yeah. Have some cake. Should we have cake?
You said I knew you couldn't be able to eat it.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Human abductions. Okay?
Yeah.
We're not going to go into gory. We're not going to go deep into this.
It's just
out of respect for the people and their
part
families.
of the contract, really, isn't it?
But it's part of the contract, 100%.
Yeah.
So we have to talk.
Wouldn't you be so mad if you find out, after all these years, that's part of the contract? I'd be pretty pissed.
I'd be right pissed.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what the hell? What the hell kind of contract is this? Like cows, sure. Me? No. No.
Yeah. Do I look like a cow? No.
No. No. All right. So apparently the species that are involved in human abductions are tall greys and insectoids, right? We know this from talking about Galactic Federation and species last week, and you did a really great job of kind of labeling them all and talking about what types of things they get into and the things that they enjoy doing, which is wonderful. Part of their
Wasn't for any of us.
Part of their contractual obligations. But as a part of the Greater Treaty, which was signed in 1954, allegedly with Dwight Eisenhower, human abductions and animal mutilations are a part of that treaty. The tall greys specialize in genetic experimentation and implementation. And the insectoids conduct invasive medical procedures, often with trauma and no memory. A lot of abductees have memory loss or blankets in front of their memories. So I have I actually have a couple of cases, but the first one I want to go into is the Lovett Cunningham incident, the story that no one wanted, the story that no one was supposed to hear, right? This is a military story. And it came out a while ago, probably about, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. And it's pretty horrendous. There's not a huge amount of information around it, being that it's military, but it has been released. So I'll just read this story to you and you tell me what you think, okay? In mind of what we've just learned.
Yeah.
In the mid-1950s, at the remote White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico, something happened that has never appeared in any official report, at least none that the public have ever seen. According to claims that have circulated through UFO research circles for decades, two men from the US Air Force, Major William Cunningham and Sergeant Jonathan P. Lovett, were sent out on a routine recovery mission. The task was to retrieve missile debris scattered across the desert floor after a test launch. Standard procedure, nothing unusual, pretty much just what we do, right? Until everything changed. As the story goes, Cunningham was several paces ahead when he heard Lovett scream. Turning back, he expected to find an injury, maybe a rattlesnake, maybe he'd fallen over. Instead, he saw something that no one was prepared for. Lovett was being pulled or lifted by an unseen force towards what Cunningham described as a silvery dish-shaped craft hovering silently above the desert floor. Within seconds, Lovett vanished into the sky. So you can imagine what Cunningham was thinking and doing at that point, right?
Yeah, you'd be like, yeah.
A full-scale search began, though records of that search have never surfaced. So this has all come out from whistleblowers and that sort of stuff. Yeah. After 3 days, Lovett's body was allegedly found miles away from the original site, his corpse displaying disturbing and unexplained injuries. The descriptions that emerged, always secondhand, of course, denied by official channels, paint a gruesome and deeply unsettling picture. And before I go through this disclaimer, just fast forward, a couple of minutes. We're not going to show pictures or anything, but just fast forward if you don't want to hear what they found. Okay. So the basically what they found was the eyes had been removed with surgical precision, very, very similar to the animal mutilations. His tongue and his jaw was missing, so a whole mandible was missing. His genitals were gone, and a circular incision around the rectum suggested plug-like removal, essentially like a whole plug had just been sucked out or removed.
Again, what they do to the cow and the animal mutilations.
Well, yeah. Most notably, there was no sign of blood loss at the scene, and the body showed no sign of decomposition despite lying in the desert heat for days. And this, yes, animal mutilation, cow mutilation, very, very similar. But also, remember when we spoke to our contact over in Puerto Rico about the chupacabra cases, and he said there was no blood. There was no blood of these goats and these animals that had huge 3 puncture marks in them. There was no blood. It had just been sucked dry, and there was no blood on the ground. There was just nothing.
Yeah.
But also no decomposition either. And so it didn't make sense. So it says, if this sounds familiar, it should. These are some forensic details later reported in hundreds, and some say thousands, and it's definitely closer to thousands of cattle mutilation cases.
Yeah, there is.
That swept across America's West in the 1970s. Clean cuts, no blood, soft tissue and organs removed with clinical precision, laser cutting precision. No predators, no footprints, just a body left behind, drained, altered, and abandoned.
Yeah, and a lot of genital stuff, like, and, the rectum, all that kind of stuff. Same thing, isn't it? They're all basically, it's all taken. So,
yeah, so this is known as report number 13 from Project Grush, which was a project that the military ran, and basically there's not much information on it, but it says that report, according to those who claim to have read it, was 600 pages long and classified above top secret. It reportedly included detailed accounts of human mutilation, extraterrestrial biological entities, and direct encounters between US officials and alien species. It doesn't exist. There's no public record of it. However, that incident apparently is in that report.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's yeah, of course they would hide that, because and that's it. If there has been a treaty been made, suppose a treaty been made, and they're not supposed to harm humans, maybe they're allowed
to. No, they were allowed to harm humans. Well,
not harm them, but kill them. So basically, that they have to be returned. There's got to be a clause in there that they're allowed to take a few of them, or they've basically
screwed up.
The other side of it is that they've gone, oh, well, actually, we want to do, deeper experiments on humans, and they've kind of crossed the line there, and there's a bit of an argument going on there.
That's one of the conclusions that I actually came to after doing all this in-depth research over a fair few, like 100 hours or whatever I put into it. I came to the conclusion that, in fact, some of these alien species that have agreements with the Earth's governments are doing things that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And basically saying, well, you can't stop us.
Yeah, what are you going to do about it? And maybe that's why, when there are abductions in these areas where there are high abductions, that there's a lot of military following or chasing alien craft, so it be, because maybe you're not supposed to be here, sod off.
Oh, there's so much more into it, eh? Yeah, and look, so Project Grush was 1949 to 1951. And it was basically to try and debunk UFO reports. Project Sign was just a little bit before that, 1948 to 1949. Project Grush took over, and then Project Blue Book came into enactment, which was 1952 to 69. And essentially it was take all of these reports and then discredit them all. And that is why Alan Hynek basically went, I can't be a part of that, because we're fudging the details.
I mean, the best thing we can do, and if anybody out there knows of anybody, let's find a channeler. Let's throw some questions at them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'll be up for that. You know,
it's like,
okay, cool. Let's find a Palladian channeler, a Nordic channeler. I mean, they all seem to be Palladian, Nordic, you know, all that kind of things. If there's somebody out there who's willing to come and talk to us and answer our questions, and you'll be treated with the utmost respect. Don't get us wrong. You absolutely respect. But I would really like to talk to a channeler. That I think that would be really, really interesting.
100%.
Have some questions and kind of throw.
Hey, I've got a.
We'd probably have to do it under, I don't know, maybe our shadow talk or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah, somewhere safer than YouTube, maybe. Not that YouTube's not safe, but you know, it's probably too safe. I've got another case. Are you ready for another case?
Another abduction?
Probably something you've never heard about. I've got a couple of, you know, cases that I'd never heard about. And this is in Brazil in 1988. And one of the reasons why I kind of chose this one was because, do you remember the stories that were coming out maybe 6 months to a year ago of the face peelers?
Yep.
And they were in the Amazon, right? They were in an Amazon tribe in Peru, just off the edge of Peru. And there were tribes people there, including a couple of girls that had their faces peeled off by what the tribes people believed to be extraterrestrials. And so I was kind of like, okay, well, this is Brazil. It's in the jungle. It's very much kind of South America as well. Let's have a look at this. So this is called...
What was the final thing behind it? They turned around and blamed it on the cartel, didn't they, or something like that?
Oh, sure. So mainstream media, the narrative was it's the cartel and it's these people floating down the rivers.
Hovercraft and...
Oh, yeah, it's just fucking ridiculous. A guy called Tim Alberino, who is part... or he's got his own podcast and all that sort of stuff, but he has a lot to do with the boys at Blurry Creatures. He actually lived in Peru in the Amazon tribes for a fair few years, and he actually went down there. He got a group of people together and went down there and talked to the tribes people and found out all the information that wasn't being released into the mainstream media and everything else. And his story is very, very interesting about these face-peeling aliens. And I'm not going to give away kind of what his conclusion was, but very, very interesting, and talks very strongly of reverse engineered technology and technology transfers and all of this sort of stuff versus alien species actually doing that. So yeah, really, really interesting. Anyway, so this case is called the, oh God, the, yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. The Guarapiranga Reserve case in 1988 in Brazil. So basically, on September the 29th, 1988, the severely mutilated body of an unidentified man was discovered near the Guarapiranga Reserve in Sao Paulo. The corpse displayed surgical-like removal of eyes, tongues, genitals, face, skin, which got me, and other internal organs. Witnesses reported wounds resembling small circular openings, suggesting a precision method far beyond typical violent crime, right? This wasn't a violent crime situation. It was laser cut. Local authorities performed an autopsy, noting the injuries occurred while the victim was alive, with intense pain likely triggering cardiac arrest. So essentially, he died from the intense pain and having a heart attack. However, one independent examination later attributed the death to natural causes rather than external mutilation. What a load of shit. No identity was released, and investigators never confirmed motive or preparatora. I don't know if that word is.
No reasoning, no motive.
No reason. So basically they just went, we don't know. There's surgical cuts here, laser-like cuts, circular cuts, and it was alive, and that's just horrendous, you know. And this is what we see in animal cases all the time, and that spate in 1970s through the west of America, right? Hundreds, if not thousands of cases of hundreds of cows or hundreds of this, or livestock. It wasn't just like one livestock or one cow.
Cows, horses, sheep, goats, dogs, cats, and that's what a lot of people think. Oh, it's just cow mutilations. It wasn't just cow mutilations. It was many other animals. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And I have one last case. Oh no, I have two. Oh my God, I have two. Okay, can I do two?
All right, keep going. Yeah. These are interesting.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
And and the like we're saying with the chupacabra, the original chupacabra, it wasn't, there was only so many cases. There were hundreds, if not, there were like over 1,000, wasn't there?
Over like a 2-month period.
Yeah, and sometimes there were like 100 attacks a night. That's what people don't understand. We have this interview coming up, and we will release it. From the son of the police. He was like one of the head of the police
He was the head of the police in Puerto Rico. He was in charge. He was the detective in charge of this entire situation.
And there were hundreds of attacks, and it just proves that there was more than one.
Yeah.
So people thought, it was just this one beastie that was going around, but there were literally attacks on both sides of the island at the same time. So really.
And it was, crazy conversation that we had with him. And there's so many little connections that you can draw between animal mutilation, human mutilation, and then like these little alien kind of whatever they are in Puerto Rico that created the same sort of thing, except there was no surgical cuts. That's the only thing. There was three major puncture marks, but no blood and no decomposition. There was no nothing had started decomposing, which was crazy. And you're talking like a few days at least afterwards. Anyway, so my next one is an unnamed case in Afghanistan, 1970s to the 1980s, somewhere around there. The Afghanistan mutilation case exists largely within UFO and intelligent related fringe narratives. So basically, we talk about it. There's not much evidence showing that it's real.
Public. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we don't have precise dates or locations, but the accounts are still relatively clear. So military or intelligence insiders describe a recovered human body showing trauma consistent with aerial extraction, including small perforations and excised tissue mimicking surgical patterns. The narrative alleges an elevated cleanup operation and strict classification reminiscent of extraterrestrial involvement, but no public documentation or official report has ever surfaced. So essentially what they're saying is he didn't die on the ground. These were not, these perforations and tissue removal was not done on the ground. It was done in the air or in some form of aerial case, ship. The case is referenced in whispered corners around, former US intelligence figures, but remains unverified, of course, because it's military. I thought it was quite interesting that it was in Afghanistan as well. And we know there's so many stories of UFOs, alien encounters, giants, all of the above through Afghanistan and the Middle East, United Arab Emirates.
The thing is, like, there's not a lot of Western access there in some of these places, and there are cases there. We just don't know about them, or what we do, we know very, very little about them.
That's it. We just don't get the information out. It's the same with China. It's very closed-lipped, or it never used to be, actually. When we started doing like talks on like the dropper discs and that sort of stuff, it was really easy to find information 10 years ago, 15 years ago, not a problem. But all of a sudden they've become very, very closed-lipped on releasing anything out of the norm. They were always very, China's very kind of open-minded to the mysticism stuff. They were never very kind of closed off to that. So that's definitely a thing that I've seen change in the last few years
Yeah.
as far as that goes, and you can't find much as far as UFO stuff goes. That's
And you know, my feeling is too, you know, you got a lot of these, not only just the ancient cultures, but there are definitely places in the world where there are no record of who's born there, who's there, you know, and
yeah.
you know, you could imagine if those people are being taken, nobody would know. There's absolutely, you know, again, apart from the local villages or something like oh, Joe Blogs down the road just like zoop, disappeared up into the sky. Who's going to believe him? They think, oh, you're just a drunk dude, or you know, it's like the local police will look into it and think, oh, you know, there is so many missing kind of people around the world that this is happening to, but we just don't know.
It's funny, right? So the missing 411, missing 411 documentary, which is purported to be Bigfoot, right? That's the conclusion, or that's what they're pushing towards, is that Bigfoot is taking these people. Aliens? Abductions, anyone?
Yeah. I mean, look at Alaska. You know, it's got the highest you know, record of people going missing, but they're talking, not only they're talking Bigfoot, they're talking about UFOs, they're talking about paranormal activity up there. You know, yes, a big percentage of them probably just wander into the bush and get eaten by bears up there. You know, but you know, there's too many missing. You know, it was like over 19,000, you know, in such a short amount of time. I mean, that's a huge amount.
And like, come on, you're not just going to be some dude that's never been in the wild before and walk into the Alaskan bush. You're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Would you do that? No.
Oh, no. No.
You're not going to do it, you know? So, yeah, how many bears are eating people? How many? Do you know what I mean?
Even if it's 50%, that's still 8,000 people. that they can't find, you know. It's just like, yes, Alaska's huge, and you know, and we know that, you know, the New Zealand bush is the same, and you know, we're not as big as Alaska, but we know what it's like. We know the New Zealand bush. We, you know, it's like you can walk in there and disappear. Absolutely.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But you know, for that amount of people should start finding stuff. You know, they should find like clothing or their bags or their backpacks, or, you know, there's got to be something. And sometimes they do. And they, you know, I've seen some of the Alaskan programs where they've found something, but you just don't know. There's no way. There's no way that amount.
I tell you, the game changer, eh? Like, you've got an iPhone, eh, Jules?
Yeah.
So you know you can satellite track now on your iPhone. So yeah, if you go into the bush, your iPhone can literally switch into satellite mode, which essentially means that you can GPS track your position of satellites, and you can make phone calls and stuff off it, which is mental, right? So that in itself should help curb these missing people, because hey, I'm just over here on my satellite, ping me, come find me, right?
Yeah.
And yet still they're not being found.
And you know, and it's people that are just doing like a day walk, or they just disappeared from even somewhere close. So
yeah, it's so that's a whole anyway. I've got one more. Okay, I've got
one a whole different story.
This has been fun. Have you enjoyed this so far?
Yeah. I think we should probably do an episode on the 411 people too.
Oh, yeah.
And then Alaska. We just want to do Alaska as well.
The threads together. Yeah. All right. So I have one more. Well, actually, I've got another like 4 pages. Let's be honest. But
it's a good one. Give us
the last one I wanted to share with you, and I know that, you know, you're a horse fan, right? Juliet has grown up around horses forever and ever, right? Amen. My mum used to.
Oh, don't do it. Are you going to do a horrible horse one? It's not very.
No. Okay. Yes, I am. The title of this mutilation is called Snippy the Horse.
Oh, Snippy.
Have you heard of Snippy the horse? 1960.
No, but I will tell you a horsey encounter later.
So Snippy the horse was in 1967, obviously during that UFO flap, right? When they were just seen everywhere. This was in Colorado, in Alamosa in Colorado. So in in Colorado. In early September 1967, near Alamosa in Colorado's San Luis Valley, a 3-year-old Appaloosa mare disappeared from Harry King's ranch. I'm sorry.
Okay, Gary.
If you're watching the video right now, you can see her crying. If you're not watching it, you're just listening to the podcast.
Oh
she's crying her eyes out.
Carry on.
Anyway, okay, so he disappeared from Harry King's ranch. 2 days later, King found her remains about a quarter of a mile away. And if you don't like mutilation stories, now's the time to swappity swap, fast forward a little bit by a couple of minutes. You have been warned.
You have been warned. Okay, I'm going.
Juliet's out. So the horse, later referred to as Snippy, had its head and neck completely stripped of flesh, leaving only bleached bone with the rest of its body untouched. No blood was seen and no tracks were found nearby. Now, I remember reading this story and seeing photos and stuff of it. It's really strange. It's very, very odd. It's very, very odd. Witnesses noted exhaust or landing marks, flattened bushes, soil indentations near the body, a sweet medicinal smell, and bones that turned pink and black over days. A family member claiming to have seen a large unidentified object overhead on the day of the disappearance, but there was no visual clarity. So they saw it, they kind of figured that was something weird, but disappeared.
Yeah.
The national press labeled it flying saucers, killed my horse. But there were a couple of other alternative explanations, right? So tell me what you think of these alternative explanations. And I'm really glad that we're not showing photos, but at the same time, I wish we were showing photos because some of these photos are pretty, like they're gruesome, but they're
fascinating. They're fascinating. You have a look at them. Yeah.
They're really out. They're just not what you expect. They're just so out of left field. So one explanation was the Alamosa County Sheriff, Mr. Ben Phillips, let's name him live on TV, suggested lightning strike as a cause and declined to investigate the scene. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Go and sit down. There was a confession. 2 Alamosa State College students admitted to shooting the horse. Weeks after media attention began, the horse had allegedly been shot in the rump and misidentified in early reports. Pretty sure Harry King would have words with that. Pretty sure he knows what a stripped down horse looks like, only in the neck. And the last alternative explanation is the Condon Committee, which was part of a UFO committee, which studied UFO reports, concluded no evidence that supported an extraterrestrial cause. So essentially, this entire case of Snippy in 1967 was totally thrown out and said, this never happened. Yep. Harry, don't talk about it. Your horse was shot in the butt by 2 college students, and then somehow the predators came in and just ate its neck.
That's insane. I'm looking at the pictures now. That is insane.
It's mental, right? Yeah,
it's that, and coming from a farming background and, and that kind of stuff, and us being in the bush, we know when things are killed or died and they get eaten, they don't look like that. That is insane.
Absolutely. Bleached bone. There's too many things in this story to go into these alleged explanations, or these alternative explanations. What an absolute crock of shit. But in 1967, there was so many cattle mutilations, animal mutilations happening, especially through the US. Like US got really, really hammered for it. Nebraska, Colorado, New Mexico, there was bucket loads around that sort of area. And it got to the point where people were just stopped talking about it and just got on with life because they had to. Like, look at Skinwalker Ranch, right? When the previous owners, the Shermans owned Skinwalker Ranch, they had cattle mutilations all the time.
Yeah.
And they just decided not to talk about it. The previous owners had cattle mutilations all the way through the Uinta Basin, and that was
all through
at
that
around
area.
that
Yeah,
1970s.
there's like cattle mutilations and so, and it still goes on now.
Yeah.
There's still the occasional ones that there's been programs done back in 2023, and it's still showing cattle mutilations.
100%. And I mean, that's devastating. We talked about the devastation that farmers feel when they lose some of their prized possessions, their prized bulls or their prized cows or their calves or whatever. And talking about, if you have a horse ranch, man, that Appaloosa is probably worth a bucket load of money. And it was only a 3-year-old, and they become, your babies. You look after them and your family. And so to be then told, oh, nah, that's probably just a lightning strike.
Yeah.
No, that sort of stuff just bloody pisses me off to no end. Like, it's just totally throwing it in the face of these owners that are like, we need help us. And they're going, oh, well, you're not looking at it properly. Yeah. You don't know what you're talking about.
Find the wood.
Okay, so while you try and find that, the last thing that I had on my list was technology transfers and UFO crash retrieval programs, right? And I kind of thought, okay, let's just follow the money, right? Because it always comes back to the private sector.
Yeah.
Always comes back to US corporations playing a key role in reverse engineering, right? Companies like Bell Labs, IBM, Lockheed Martin, or Skunk's Work Division, Hughes Aircraft, Raytheon is a huge name in the aeronautical space, General Electric. These companies were alleged to have been given materials or blueprints from crash sites. We know this for a fact. Tin foil, aluminium foil that you have right now comes from the Roswell crash site. We know this for a fact. This has come down through eyewitnesses, people that were involved in the police that went, this is tin foil. Here we go. It was reverse engineered and then made shitloads of money from it. They were allowed to develop and patent technologies derived from non-human sources. My God, have you ever looked at the patent list? The US patent list?
No.
The shit that I look at is amazing, eh? Honestly, there are patents for things you don't even know exist.
Yeah.
They don't even know exist, but they're going to put a patent on it because it probably will at some point, because they're reverse engineering elements and
I know there's a lot of stuff there that is patent that it's just not made yet or not released yet, all that kind of stuff.
100%. And we know about the black budget military programs. There's so much money that is just being strategically lost into all of these
dollars.
Into all of these projects. And they go into like the DUMS, the deep underground military bases. There's Pine Gap in Australia that is said to have UFOs and extraterrestrial beings there as well. No doubt Australia's definitely got some sort of a connection with the Galactic Federation, being that they're a giant continent, huge piece of land, and land is worth everything, right? Because of the minerals and the everything else that's in said ground.
Yeah.
Did you find what you're looking for, darling?
No, I can't remember it, but it was basically, I will find, but I have spoken about this. It was like Woodville, somewhere in the States anyway. So it's some private land, and it was basically about an area where there's a lot of alien encounters and ships are seen, and there's like a bit of a war going on between the aliens and the farmers. It's like Woodville or something like that, Woodrest. And basically a horse there, the guy came and found his prize stallion exploded, and he put him into his pen, came back in the morning and went into his stable, and this horse had basically exploded, and there was like nothing left of it. It was like dripping from the ceilings. So yeah, I know, poor horses. So it just goes to show they're not always mutilated, they are exploded as well.
And what, that's retaliation for this war that's going on?
I reckon, I think that's basically what they were saying. So but like a lot of the farmers, they've made it into like a public road, a public area that like no, private, sorry, and they don't like people going in. And so this I think it was Ben and the other lady got in and interviewed them, and this is
Oh,
what's going on. Yeah. So, but same thing,
yes.
animal mutilations, horses taken, all that kind of stuff. These farmers have got this ongoing battle apparently with these aliens and
Could
these.
you imagine being in a private war with alien beings that nobody knows about slash believes? Oh my God.
I'd be so mad. Goddamn aliens.
Yeah, you'd be right pissed off, but also nobody would believe you. Who would you talk to about it? Apart from your neighbor, that's like, yeah, also my horse. Like,
Yeah, my horse did too.
far out, man. That is just not okay. Like, that is psychosis 101, right? That will screw with your brain so fast. And we kind of go, oh, we've got like, an open mind, and we're quite like open to all of this sort of stuff. But I tell you what, if I got into a war with alien species, I don't know how happy I'd be mentally with that. Do you know what? I don't know that my brain would handle that.
About them makes you want to drink. So
just this conversation makes me.
Conversation is enough. Yeah, no, it's yeah. It is, you got to look at the reality of it, and that's it, isn't it? We sit there going, oh, why don't they just come out and say? But we know ourselves, if you're kind of confronted with that thing. I mean, people don't deal with seeing Bigfoot. People don't, they can't deal with seeing paranormal stuff. I mean,
Sure.
we know ourselves. We've had some pretty spooky encounters, and some times where we've just gone, oh, I'm going to have nightmares about this one for a while. Thanks. So that's we're more open-minded. People who are within our industries are a lot more open-minded. But if you went to the Joe Blogs down the road who doesn't even watch alien shows, to find out that aliens are walking around and abducting people, or flying around, I should say. That's a pretty. I suppose that would cause a bit of stress.
Well, apparently, one of the things that came up in my research was one of the presidents that allegedly had a contact or a meeting. He was very, very concerned at the claim that these alien species were walking around and you wouldn't even know that they were aliens or extraterrestrials. They look just like humans because we're so diverse now, and we've had so much interracial bonding. You wouldn't know. We're so bonding.
Is that what we call it now? We're bonding with aliens.
Bonding. Fuck, I hope someone's bonding. Jesus. Somebody better be bonding in this place. Somebody better be getting some bonding action. Anyway, we're not going down that track right now, but that's the dungeon talk. R18. Become a truth seeker. Yeah, that's it. Like, I think and it was funny because we talked about this a while ago. Like, I always thought people saw ghosts like I did, right? I always thought people had encounters with UFOs. I've seen UFOs since day dot. I've always seen things in the sky that's just super, super odd. Oh, did I tell you that I saw a rainbow UFO over the weekend?
No, I haven't even spoken. I've been working.
We don't talk anymore because Juliet has a real job. Sucks. So I went to it's winter time in New Zealand, and it was very, very cold, and we went to a festival. They had like a midwinter Christmas sort of thing in July, and they closed the street down, and they have hot air balloon fire going off and all sorts of stuff. It's really, really cool. And they had this giant strobe light, like a VIP light that goes around the sky, right? They had that going on, and I was like, I wonder if that's going to attract anyone tonight. This is my thought in my head. That's a giant, spotlight.
Like a big bat light.
I really wanted to put a Batman on it. I was like, who hasn't thought of this already? Like, come on, put a Batman sign on it. Anyway, so yeah, this huge, like light going around, and I was like, there must be somebody watching.
What are they doing?
Like, what are you guys up to?
Oh, it's crazy human
party down there, yeah. And so I'm walking around with my little 4-year-old and my mum, right, who wrapped up in scarves and hats and all this sort of stuff. And I'm kind of walking down the street, and I was like, hey, what's that? Is that a drone? because I thought maybe they were filming with a couple of drones in the sky. And there was something that was kind of moving around over there as well, quite a bright light. And I was like, well, you're not a satellite, because satellites go in one direction or they don't move. And he was kind of like drawing letters in the sky. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, where else are you? And then all of a sudden, this really super bright light showed up miles away, like very, very long way away, that looked like a satellite. You know, you get that really bright satellite kind of star. I'm a giant freaking pretend synthetic star.
And you just need to watch it 5 minutes. You're like, oh, you're a satellite. You can tell.
Yeah, and you know it's a satellite because it's super white and really like metallic-y looking, right? You get that kind of metallic reflection off it, especially where I am in Wellington. We don't have much light. We have no light pollution much at all. So you can see things very, very clearly in the sky. Anyway, so I'm looking at this thing and I was like, and I said to my little boy, Manea, can you see a UFO in the sky? And he goes, yeah, there's one over there. It's rainbow UFO. And I went, oh, you're looking at the same thing I am. And it started changing its colors into rainbow colors. And I was like, no shit, are you a drone? I was like, please be a drone. And, and I was like, you know, be a drone. Anyway, it wasn't a drone because it was 100% still in the same spot for about an hour. Just shining different rainbow lights.
That's very kind of thing, yeah.
Really, really, really crazy. I actually zoomed in on my phone camera. It's super grainy, but you can see the colors changing, and it was almost like you know, there's people that have videos of like this kind of plasma morphing kind of ball. Yeah. That's what it looked like. Yeah, there was like spikes coming off it, and it looked like it was water. It was really, really crazy. And I said to Mum, I was like, Mum, it's UFO. She's like, don't talk about that shit. And I was like, oh, okay, don't worry. And it was really crazy because I'm looking up there pointing and nobody else looked. And I'm going, there's a thing up in the sky. Nobody else could see it or identify with it. And that's kind of, I guess my point is, you have to be in the right vibrational frequency to receive telekinetic messages, downloads, be able to see things, be able to connect with that. And because I always thought that everyone could see that stuff. I always thought everyone could see it. Yeah.
And that's it. And we've talked about that even, you know, within the paranormal where you know, I've always seen stuff as well, but I just got to a point in my life where I was like, I couldn't deal with this. It's just getting too much. So please go away and just stay away for a while. And I didn't. I saw nothing. I saw nothing for so long, you know. It was like, but now they're all back.
Everyone.
Thanks, guys. And I do blame my dog for going psycho and barking at things, and we think she's a bit senile because she is old, but Lisa's probably informed me that it's probably not.
I was like, she's probably just barking at a ghost. She's not senile, she's just seeing ghosts.
My little chihuahua just keeps jumping up and going absolutely psycho in the middle of the room, running around and like aggressively barking, like going psychotic. There's no knocks on the door. She's not running anywhere. Every other animal in the house jumps and like look at her, like, you know, it's like what's, and they're like, you can see them like going, what's going on? And she's just like losing her shite.
Yeah, and that's because she's seeing something walking around your house that you're not seeing. Because you're not on the same vibrational frequency. It's crazy.
And my chihuahua, apparently.
You gotta get on her frequency, baby. It's mental, man. And honestly, like there's so many UFO encounters and sightings and things like that happening, and a lot of people being kind of clued up on it and being given wisdom and information and stuff. And I guess, as per always, like we always like to leave conversations like this on a place of like discernment, right?
Yeah.
You've been given discernment to be able to have a bullshit radar, right? We always have this amazing bullshit radar to be able to pick rubbish or pick truth. And your instincts will tell you, the butterflies in your tummy will tell you if it's right or if it's wrong. And if those butterflies are going off, it's wrong, right? You need to leave. That's not a good space to be in. Follow that intuition, follow that, use that discernment that you've been given, and learn as much as you humanly can. Don't just take it from us. Now go off and do your own research and come back and tell us where we were wrong. Let's talk about it, right? Come back and tell us, actually, you know what? Have I got a story for you? Come and share.
Not 12 people. There are 13 people.
Yeah. You were wrong.
Just like there's not 12 months, there's actually 13 months of the calendar. But hey, we won't talk about that one.
And honestly, Jules and I are just learning so much, man. Like, seriously, we're just the amount of research that we get to do for these live stream kind of topics for Walking in the Shadows is crazy. And we wouldn't be able to do it otherwise. We wouldn't get the opportunity to be able to kind of deep dive into these topics and really enlighten ourselves and broaden out.
And, and like we're saying, that like just from today's conversations, there's about 5 other topics that we would like to go off into, and that's it. It's a time thing, having the time to do it. And, and even when we do our own little private research, we just kind of keep stuff there ticking along in the background until we have more information that, that we can put out. So,
100%.
This has been fun.
It's been good. Hey, Jules, do you have anything, a little tidbit, a little juicy diamond that you want to leave everyone with today?
No, we were talking about UFO abduction kits and safety kits for our homes. We won't tell you what's in those ones because
safety first.
Safety first.
Safety first. We believe in safety first.
You know what? I mean, there's no way people go, safety for UFOs, and you can't. If you're going to get abducted, you're going to get abducted. Like I said, if I do get abducted, it's going to be Lisa's fault. Totally her fault. I'll come back and I'll be really mad.
Don't bring her back. Keep her. Drop her on Mars.
But like we said, research your own stuff. If there's topics and parts of it that you want us to go into more, flick us a call, or if you want to have a conversation with us, man, we are so open to that. Come on the lives, come chat with us, come on Shadow Talk. You don't have to be a woman to come on to Shadow Talk. We talk to a lot of guys behind the scenes and stuff like that and have interviews. And it's just fun. Like, there's some pretty amazing and cool people out there, and we love having these conversations and having our minds blown. So please come and chat to us.
100%, 100%.
Now,
Juliet, what are we talking about next week?
I don't know. What are we talking about? We're talking about
well, I tell you what, next week we have a very, very special guest.
Not little monster, a big monster.
We have a very special guest coming to talk about a very, very big monster. We have the amazing Katie Elizabeth coming to talk about the Lake Champlain monster, lake monster, which is so exciting. And we have been trying to make this happen
for ages.
So long. For so long.
Like she has done so much research for so many years. She's put so much of her own money in there, buying equipment, taking boats out. Like she is a hardcore woman. She is absolutely amazing.
And she has some phenomenal evidence in regards to sonography and radar and that sort of stuff that proves the existence of some sort of lake monster, which is pretty amazing. So this is a bit of I don't know, an exclusive for Cryptid Women's Society to have Katie Elizabeth on, an exclusive
it's so exciting.
But really, really, really cool. So it's free. Jump on YouTube, come and watch us. Bring your questions for her. Same bat time, same bat channel as normal. She will be joining us. And if you've got any questions that you want us to give her for before she comes on live, drop them to us, send us a DM, drop us a comment, send us an email, and we'll make sure she gets those questions.
And I'll just let you know, she's got a couple of books out, but she has one book that is available on Amazon on Kindle. So it is free. If you have Kindle or if you want to buy her book, absolutely go buy it. She talks about all her research and all the information that she's done. It's a really good place to start. And if you like sea monsters and you got friends that like sea monsters, come on over. We're like an American, we're the USA Loch Ness monster.
100%. Yeah, she is the woman to listen to, full stop. So very excited about next week. If you'd like to join our crazy society with other like-minded women like us, like you, and like the likes of Katie Elizabeth and other amazing cryptozoologists, ufologists, paranormal investigators, archaeologists, scientists that have worked with NASA, all of the above, come and join us at cryptidwomensociety.com. You can come and become a truth seeker right now. And if you get your membership, you can then jump into the live stream interviews that we've got going on in Shadow Talk. You can get involved in the conversation and the gathering. And more importantly, you can join Dungeon Talk.
I was about to say, where's Dungeon Talk?
Dirty. Anything that's just a little bit taboo or a little bit on the freaky side goes down into the dungeon. R18. Oh, it's fun times.
Of course, it's dungeon time, so there is wine involved, there are nibbles involved, and
nibbles. Oh, nipples.
There's not been any nipples since. See, yet.
Nipples and nipples. Okay, anyway, that's the end of us. We have got to go.
We got to get banned.
Oh my God. Let's say goodbye. And we will see y'all same bat time, same bat channel next week. Thank you everyone for joining us. That was a cracker of a show.
It was. Thank you. Love it.
Bye everyone.
Yep. Aliens. Are there cute aliens?
Aliens, nipples, and nibbles.
I can't wait for Supernatural Month.
Don't tell them about it. We're still